Good morning. It's been about 2 weeks since my last video on here, and I was kind of struggling as to what I should do the video on. And then it occurred to me very abruptly after looking at Facebook on the Positive Python, I believe it's Positive Python Facebook page. Somebody got on there and said, looking for my first retic. Does anyone know where I could find one cheap? Alright, once that is stated, we all know what happens next. It is the barrage of haters that get on there. Well, if you're looking for a cheap retic, you can't afford a retic to begin with, all this other bullshit. I'm going to go ahead and say it. There is a tad bit of truth to that. Retics do grow exponentially fast when fed on a feeding regimen that is conducive to a fast growth rate. Yes, it can get expensive. One of the topics that I would like to touch base on is, again, I've covered this before on a previous video, having a little bit of tact when it comes to approaching someone with an answer to a question. It just makes you look like an asshole, guys. If you're getting on there and saying, if you're worried about money, you need to stick to ball pythons or whatever, but you see all the hate responses that go with it. And all that does is it drives that person away from ever commenting on that website or Facebook page, and perhaps a question that needed to be answered goes unanswered because he's like, I ain't gonna ask any questions on there again. So as a snake community, we really need to learn a little bit better tact when it comes to answering some people's questions. I get some crazy ones, and I understand that. I was there once myself. I am certain that I have asked some really stupid questions. Maybe it's because I had a little bit better contacts, but I never really did get flogged like people are doing today. And it's because we have so many, what I like to call keyboard experts. And it really gets under my skin. It gets on my nerves because it might seem to be a stupid question to you, but I guarantee it, at one point in your snake raising career, you wanted to know the answer to that question. Perhaps you did a little bit more in-depth research and found it on your own, or you might be one of those people that got flogged just like this guy did this morning. Now, with that said, that was the first portion of this video. We all need to be a little bit nicer to everybody. Yeah, there might be some people that are trolling and seeing if they can get the shit pot stirred a little bit. And hey, sometimes that is funny, but that's usually noticed really quick. But there are some people out there that will be sincere about a possibly well-known question that a lot of people know the answer to and might figure out to be common sense or whatever. But as a community, we need to quit all the hateful remarks and attacking our fellow members. It's going to happen, but maybe this video will possibly slow that down a little bit. That's topic number one. Topic number two, let's address that question in particular. I'm looking for a cheap retic, or I'm looking to get my first retic. Do you know where I can get one cheap? Yeah, there is some truth to it could get expensive as far as enclosure sizes as they grow. But let's face it, this little guy right here is in a 4-foot enclosure. He is 2 years old, over 2 years old, and it's perfectly fine in it. Okay, that is one enclosure that I bought 2 years ago for this male. I have slow grown him somewhat. I didn't give him food every 5 to 7 days. I gave him food every 14, so he's much smaller. All right, so the expense on that snake wasn't all that great. Granted, it's an ivory, and that's back when ivories were pretty hot, and I sunk a bunch of money into it. But as far as keeping the snake, it wasn't that bad. You're looking at, let's see, start off on small rats. You're looking at $1.25 if you buy them in bulk from Perfect Prey or any of the other uh, suppliers. So you're looking at $5 a month to feed that snake for a short period of time. And then you jump up to the mediums and so on and so forth. It gets a little bit more expensive. And everybody wants to throw in the vet bills and the enclosures and the food. And to be honest, if you're getting one snake, they're not that bad to keep. They're not that expensive. They can get expensive when you start building bigger enclosures or purchasing bigger enclosures. I personally just built an 8 foot by 3 foot. It cost me 3 sheets of PVC, which was $210. So when you go to buy that enclosure, you're looking at $600 to $700 for the enclosure, and then $300 for freight to get it to your house. Yeah, it can get expensive. There's also ways of not letting it be expensive. There are some cases where people get a retic that don't really need a retic. I think the first question that we need to ask is, okay, what is your experience level with snake keeping in general? So if this person says, well, I had a ball python 5 years ago and I'm looking to get back into it, and I thought I really like the colors of the retics and I want to go ahead and get into that. That's when, as a community, we need to step in and say, hey, maybe you're not quite ready for the retic yet. But let's try this. How about you go through a boa or even a less active Burmese python that will still have the steady growth rate, but be a little bit less active. These things are very active, as most of us know as retic handlers or keepers. They are much more active. And when you throw in a 10 to 15 foot snake, that's going to be a handful. Not impossible. If you start off with a retic, it's not impossible to keep that snake. It's just that your learning curve is going to be forced upon you in a much quicker rate than if you were to go through the transition like most of us have. Getting off topic, the expense. One snake versus 50 snakes. I spend anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a month just on food for my animals. It can get expensive. Yes, I get that, but I keep a shit ton of snakes, and they're all retics, so I expect that. That's no big deal. But for somebody asking, let's go through the proper steps. How long have you been keeping snakes? What kind of snakes have you been keeping? Perhaps maybe you should try this first and work your way up, or you can explain to them. There are ways of keeping the expense down. In a way that's not going to allow that animal to suffer. Feeding once a week, a hatchling retic for the first 6 months, you're looking at $5 to $6, maybe $7 a month, depending on where you get your rats. And the initial investment, yeah, it could get kind of high. One of my pet peeves is wooden enclosures. I've done them before 15, 20 years ago, and I realized that that was not the way to go. However, they do make sealants now that are a little bit better as far as keeping a wood enclosure to where the humidity is proper. I didn't have that back then. I just built a wooden box and said, okay, cool. Put my snake in there, and I had nothing but problems with shedding ever since. I do build PVC enclosures. I purchase PVC enclosures. That expense is very diversified. $200 plus shipping at Animal Plastics. If I were to build it myself, about $150 because you're buying one sheet of PVC. One sheet. And then you talk about your tempered glass. That can get rather high. Tempered glass for this enclosure is about $60 to $70. So boom, right there, you're already at what you would pay for Animal Plastics. Just go ahead and purchase them. However, you're not waiting 7 or 8 years to get the damn thing. Okay, it's not 7 or 8 years. Yeah, it was an exaggeration to bring the point across. Animal Plastics, please hire more people. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, so are retics expensive? They can be. What do you want to do with that snake? Do you want to get it super big and have a big snake Do you have the experience level for that? Do you have the deep wallet for that? Or even the retics with your dwarf and your super dwarf, you're not going to be spending that much on food. So there again, what's the expense level? If you keep a clean enclosure, if you keep the water changed out, if you have them on a good feeding regimen, your vet bills are going to be nothing. All right? Husbandry is key. If you keep a good temperature, a good humidity, keeping a good feeding regimen, you're not going to be spending anything on a vet. That is on several different factors as well. If you have a male and a female in the same room or in the same location, that male may start rubbing and may cause you to go get some antibiotics, then a little bit higher. But let's be honest, my last snake that I put on antibiotics, it cost me, I think, $12, and that was a year and a half ago. There again, the expense is not that great. I know these people get on there and they just want to bitch about something. They want to start drama. They want to start confrontation. I hate it. I freaking hate Facebook, people. I can't stand it. It is a petri dish for all of the people that hate life or have some kind of issue that they just want to blow up on somebody and make themselves look good, but at the same time, they're making them look like a douchebag. So that's my point of view. I may get some hate letters about that, but I don't really care. So, boils down to this. How expensive do you want to make keeping a retic? Do you want to put this snake right here in an 8-foot enclosure, which will cause the snake to be stressed out, will be too big, it will be a little bit defensive when you go to get them out, what most people refer to as cage aggression. I do not like using the word aggressive. They are defensive. If they are in a big enclosure, they're going to be defensive. They're not going to feel secure unless you have a very good hide system in there, perhaps several different hides. I'm covering a lot of bases here, guys, but this is all something that we should stop and think about before we start hitting the reply button on some of these Facebook pages. So you have an animal like this who is, let's see, he is probably coming up on a year old, and I've had him in a 4-foot enclosure ever since I got it. So my expense, $200. Rats, $5-6 a month, maybe $7. She is now on mediums. He is on mediums now. So now I'm looking at about $8 a month. So where is this real high expense that everybody's talking about? Or that everybody's just slamming these new people to our community about? Stop doing it. It's ignorant. It makes yourself look like a douchebag or an asshole. Just stop. We can make it as expensive as we want it to be. If I wanted to power feed this animal and get it up to 8 or 9 feet the first year, giving it a large rat every 5 days, that will get expensive. Yeah. No vet bills. I keep the temperatures and the humidity correct. I keep the enclosure clean. I keep the water changed out. So, looks pretty healthy to me, guys. What do you guys think? Motley Tiger. Can't get any better. In short, be nice to people. Stop being dicks. Ugh. Best thing you guys can do, get the hell off of Facebook. That place does nothing but piss me the hell off. If you want to know something about raising a retic, get in touch with a breeder. Give me a shout. Drop me a line. Drop me an email. I'll help the best way I can. And hopefully that clears the air up a little bit. Worst thing you can do is get on Positive Pythons or Retic Republic, Retics Worldwide, Retic Nation, something like that, and ask a question that may seem trivial to some, but for you, you're just doing your research. Some people might say, Google it or get on the internet and research it that way. It is an easy way to research what we're after by going ahead and asking people that have already been raising retics. So we're researching from people that know. So stop slamming them if they ask kind of a silly question. That's my beef for today. I appreciate you watching. I might have been a little bit repetitive on this video, but as you can see, it kind of irritates me a little bit to see somebody get slammed. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. I believe it is Thursday today. I really don't know. It's been a long week. It's Thursday or Friday. Either way, have a great weekend, the rest of the week, whatever. If you have any questions about this, please let me know, and we'll see you on the next video. Appreciate you watching.